Today is part 3 of the Bigfoot Whisperers, people who interact with and talk to Bigfoot. Today I'm talking to an engineer who's made contact with Bigfoot. Hey John, how's it going today? Why don't you tell me a little bit about your background to give me an idea about yourself?
Okay, I live in, I'll just say I live in New England. That's close enough. I'm in a forested area, pretty rural. I've been here for over 30 years with my wife and kids. I have a machine shop. I work in my barn. I'm a mechanical engineer and I build my own designs. So my shop is backed right up to the forest. So,
how far out in the boonies would you say it is?
Well, they've been building houses here recently. When we moved here, there was like only 2 houses for about a mile around. But now they've been building houses. But fortunately, a lot of the forest around here is protected. A lot of it's state forest. A lot of it is conservation land. So it's fairly safe from being developed. So I do meditation. I follow a tantric meditation path from India. I had a guru in India. I have a back door to my shop. I was just looking at the back door, and all of a sudden, it was a huge crash, like a tree crashing down. Which I don't know if you can see me, but it was right out there. And it was like 70 degrees out, nice weather. I immediately ran out in the forest, edge of the forest. I couldn't find anything that created the sound, nothing, but it was really big.
Wow, that's pretty weird that you didn't see anything.
Yeah, I didn't see anything.
I wonder if it like fell down or something, or tripped.
Could have been hiding, but I mean, I'll tell you, and this is controversial because none of the regular researchers believe me, is I think they have the ability to kind of half switch out of this dimension. And they can see us where we can't see them. And it's just my intuition. I'll tell you some more things that happen after that.
Well, that's actually not too bad of a assumption, because a lot of the native tribes say that they know how to go into like a different world, or like the spirit world or whatever. And spirit world to Native Americans could very well just mean like another dimension. And another interesting thing about what you told me so far was that you said you practice meditation. And I talked to a Buddhist monk, and he was telling me that the Sasquatch will only meet with people who are like at peace with themselves. And then I talked to a Lakota shaman, and she said everyone knows that Bigfoot and little people only like to meet with people who are holy. They only like spiritual people. They don't like how normal people feel or something, so they avoid. But if they see that someone has like a good spirit, I'm not exactly sure what they see in someone who practices meditation, but they like it.
Yeah, I've heard that also, but I don't like to refer to myself as holy. I do meditation, and perhaps they can perceive that. I mean, I have other things I'm going to tell you that gets a little bit weird, but I'll just tell you in a series of events. After the crash here, it was in September. I was looking out. I smelled smoke like around midnight. I got on my bed, went to the window in another room to look out because I was worried. I'm always worried about a fire or something. It just turned out it was some cooking fire that they had left going from the house across the street. But anyway, so this midnight, I could only partially see the lawn. It was a little bit of moonlight. I put my head up against the screen, and all of a sudden a rock hit the screen like 6 inches from my head. And I looked down, and I really, whoever threw it had to have been hiding, or like we said, they just blinked out of this reality, because I couldn't see anything except I have a little pond. I don't know if you can see us right out there. On the other side of the pond, there was a dull glowing light, and it was just there. It stayed there for maybe 10 minutes. Unmoving. It wasn't a flashlight. It was dull. I don't know what it was. I do think it was associated with whoever threw the rock, but again, I have no idea. I have heard that Sasquatch are often seen associated with lights, but I don't understand why that is.
I talked to a native woman the other day, and she was telling me that they do have lights there.
Really?
Yeah.
Does she know how they make them, like with their mind, or?
I'll get back to you on that. I'll ask her right now. But keep going.
Oh, I forgot about one experience I had, which I forgot about. This is about 5 or 6 years ago. It's about 250 feet from my house, my shop to my house. And at night, when I'm working here late, I go up and it's really dark. There's no lights or anything. So, and if I don't have a flashlight. So this day it had been raining all day. And I'm getting up near the house, near the driveway, and there's a stand of some hemlocks there. And all of a sudden I smell this really intense wet dog smell. Really intense. I mean, I smelled wet dogs, and you can be up right next to them. This smell was stronger than being up right next to a wet dog. I mean, it was, and I thought it was really strange. I couldn't see anything. I could just barely see enough of the road so I wouldn't fall in the ditch, So I walked forward on the road, and the smell disappeared. I walked backwards, smell came again. I walked back, and the smell disappeared. I went to the left, the smell disappeared. So I knew whatever was right on my right, and I felt that they were standing there looking at me. And this was literally like 10 feet away, but I couldn't see anything.
So it was extremely localized, the smell?
Oh yeah, very localized, within a radius of about 20 feet, I'd say.
Wow, that's bizarre. That really does make it seem like they actually can go invisible or something.
I have no idea.
That's
it was
bizarre.
dark enough I wouldn't be able to see them anyway. But at that point, I called up one of the Bigfoot research organization, and they decided to come out, and we had this little meeting out here. This is the beginning of November 2016, and there was quite a few people they brought, but they also brought this psychic lady. When this psychic lady came, we didn't tell her anything. We didn't tell her even that it was a Sasquatch or anything. And the first thing she said, we decided to walk down the road, and she stopped at the exact point where this happened. And she went up to the tree, and she said, the Sasquatch was standing right here making fun of you. For laughing or something like that. I don't know if you've heard of somebody named Kiwani Lapsaritis. He's in eastern Montana.
I have not heard of him.
Yeah, he claims that he's had psychic contact with them, and he talks about how they can actually come in your house, but because they're just phased out of our reality, you can't see them, but they can see you, and that they can play tricks on you. So what happened, I had remembered that, but what happened was this was June last summer. So I'm lying in bed around 3 a.m, wide awake. My feet were sticking out from the covers, and somebody comes by, the door was closed. I don't know who it was, but they slapped the bottom of my foot. I couldn't see anything. There was nobody in the room but me and my wife, and they're saying, who the heck is this? 2 weeks later, it happened again, 3 a.m, my foot's out. Somebody slapped the bottom of my foot. So I talked to this friend I told you about, she a Cherokee lady, and she immediately, I said, well, what do you think it is? And she said, oh, well, it's obviously the Sasquatch. And I said, well, what do you think they're doing? And she said, well, they're probably upset because you keep calling them Bigfoot instead of Sasquatch. They don't like to be called Bigfoot. And that's why they slapped you on the foot, because you have big feet. So I don't know, I'm just saying that's what happened. And then to add that a week ago, again, I'm waking in the middle of the night, wide awake, my feet are out from under my cover, and somebody wiggled my toes. By now I'm not getting afraid when this happens. I'm just saying, that's interesting. I can't have, and this time I was staring right at the wall when it happened, so there was nobody there. But somebody's wiggling my toes. And this, people are not going to believe this, but I'm telling you, this is the truth. I'm a scientist. I'm an engineer. I'm not making this up. This is real. And I think people have got to start understanding that there is more to dimensional reality than just what you see with your eyes. I'm convinced that the Sasquatch have that capability of going in and out of this dimension, and even partially into this dimension. I had a woman visitor this summer who was had tons of experiences with extraterrestrials and other beings, and she was sleeping up in my attic, my third floor. And she said in the middle of the night, a very large being came in the room and watched her and then left. And she was wondering who that was. And I said, well, it's probably a Sasquatch came in to see who you were. So last summer, I went out to Oregon and I met with one of the people that was there was a shaman lady. And I said, well, what do you think I should do? And she said, well, you should certainly try and talk to them and contact them. So I went on this she led me on a shamanic journey to try and communicate with the Sasquatch. I did. I made very good psychic contact.
What was the process in order to allow that to happen?
She said she followed a process of the Incan shaman, and I can describe what she did. First, she did smudging all around. I was lying on my back, and then she was walking around. She was doing something herself, but she was leading me on this. First, she had me find my power animals, which happened very quickly and very nicely. And then she had me go to a spot that I felt was a power spot, and it's the spot I meditate in out here in this field. I'll just tell you one aside about the spot where I meditate is when the Bigfoot people, researchers came, they brought I can't remember the name. It's a meter that detects psychic phenomena.
An EMF meter?
Yeah, and anyway, I didn't tell them where I meditated, but they were walking around my field with the EMF meter, and they found the exact spot where I meditated because the EMF meter lit up. Of course, they think it's a ghost, but I think, no, it's probably just the energy from meditating, Anyhow, so she led me on this journey, and I made contact actually in that journey with two Sasquatch, one from around that area of Oregon near Washington. And in that journey, I asked that Sasquatch to teach me, and he said, no. He said, I have all the people around here I have to teach, so he said, you learn from the one that lives near you. So then in that journey, I contacted that one, and I said, I want to learn from you. And he said, you have to overcome your fear of us before we'll teach you. So he instructed me he said, this local Sasquatch in this shamanic journey. He said, you have to come out and meet me in the night, and then I'll teach you. And I have to admit, I have not overcome my fear of doing that yet. I have no fear of going out.
You haven't done it yet?
I'm a chicken. What am I supposed to say? See, I feel the spirit of the forest. When I go out at night, the forest is very powerful. I don't know if you've ever experienced that.
I always loved going out at night for some reason.
Yeah, I mean, I like going out at night, but I guess it's knowing that they're there watching you and knowing that there are other beings out there besides just the animals. I know for some reason it's scary to me. I'll tell you something else that happened.
Hold on, before we move forward, I want to ask a question.
Yeah.
Can you describe for me and anyone else who might be wondering, like, when you're communicating with something telepathically, does it just sound like your own imagination? Like, what does it sound like? What does it feel like? You know what I mean?
It does. It feels like your own imagination, except that in my case, I experience it as coming from, when I experience psychic communication, it's almost like it's coming from out here.
Does it sound different than your own voice, your own internal voice?
Your own voice. It's in your own voice, but it has a different impetus, a different source. And there always is the doubt that, well, I'm imagining this, but there's also if you can quiet your mind to a certain degree, you can tell that it's not you originating the thoughts. See, the thing about, and then people say, well, how do you know their language? How do they know your language? In the psychic communication, there's pure thought. When I project a thought, I project it in English language. It's then transferred into pure thought, and the being who picks it up takes that pure thought and transfers it into their language.
I don't even think it's language. I think it's just, you can just tell what they're thinking. Like,
Yeah, I mean, but
understand
I'm just saying there is some limitation in that my concepts will limit what they may be telling me. So
you just know us from an outside source. Like, you just know because you've practiced the meditation, you could tell the difference.
And I've had other experiences like that. I could go into it, but anyway, I've had enough experiences to show me that that's true. Yeah.
I've heard things talk in my head, but it was only during like astral projection. Like I do that. I do that quite a bit. But it sounds like someone else when I hear it, but it also sounds like it's outside of me. So I understand what you're saying, but I've never been awake while that happens. So I don't really understand.
Well, I think that's what we all have to learn, because I think that's the realm of thought, is the astral realm.
So the lady told me that the light is their energy, their spiritual energy. It's like shamanism of some sort.
Uh-huh.
And she also confirmed that they are able to go invisible, like what you said, and like touch people or sneak around or whatever.
Last summer, after I saw this shaman, I had this lucid dream. Do you know the difference between a lucid dream and a regular dream?
Yes, I do. You can control the lucid dream. And
right,
you're aware that you're dreaming.
Right. You can make conscious thoughts and questions and things. So in this dream, I'm in this field, and two young Sasquatch males come up to me. They're both, very tall, but I knew they were young because they were thin, not so muscular, and they motioned for me to follow them. So I followed them, and they were taking me to some meeting. And as they walk, all of a sudden they transformed into human-looking people. And I asked them, I said, "How did you do that?" And they laughed, and they wouldn't tell me. I know this is going to sound very strange. I'm just telling you what my experience was. So I went along with them, and eventually we came to a clearing or a meeting room where there was about 20 human-looking people, but I knew they were all Sasquatch. They were doing it so that I wouldn't be afraid. They were appearing as humans. And in the center of them was a woman Sasquatch. She was shorter than the rest, but she was older. And I knew immediately she was the clan mother, or the family mother, of this group of 20. She was sort of like I guess clan mother is the best thing I can say. And they all stood aside, and I was standing there, and she was standing facing me. And I knew that this immediately was a test to see if I could be friend of the Sasquatch people. And this was really weird. She started, with her mind, she started looking through my mind and looking at past events in my life. And I could see the events she was bringing up. She was doing it very quickly, looking through events to see what I had done in the past, what kind of person I am. So that passed all right. And then she started projecting images in my head, like situations, to see how I'd react. Would I react with violence? Would I react with anger? Or, et cetera, et cetera. Unfortunately, I woke up right in the middle of her doing that. So I don't know what the result of that was. I was thinking, well, did they accept me as a friend or not? The next night I had a dream, and the whole dream was nothing but a Sasquatch, long red hair, looking at me and smiling. The whole dream was like, for a long time, all I did was sit there and smile. So I got the idea that they accepted me as a friend, So that was very nice. But again, I have to overcome this fear. In August, or was it September, I had to go out in my yard. It was around midnight. And I went out, I think it was to turn off a pump or something. I can't remember. Anyway, when I got to the edge of the woods, there was some very loud branches breaking. And I knew whoever it was very large and was waiting for me. Now, a skeptic would say, well, it's probably a moose. I mean, we have moose that come in the yard, but I don't think I got the psychic feeling that he was there. And I chickened out, he was waiting for me to come to him, and I chickened out. So that's where I am. in the midst of trying to gain that bravery to go up. I have no idea where that fear comes from because I trust them, but
they're double your size. They can rip you in half if they wanted.
He could take your head off. Of course, on the other hand, he could have done that any other time I was out there or in the woods, you know.
They're not animal-like. The reason why they avoid a lot of people mostly today is they don't like how Western culture came and destroyed the native people. Like they don't respect other beliefs or other cultures, and especially non-humans. So they have to avoid them.
They also don't like what we're doing to the environment.
I understand it, especially being alone. You have to be pretty brave to be able to do that. But I mean, I don't even know what you would learn from them. It'd probably be pretty eye-opening stuff.
I know. I was hoping that they'd teach me dimensions and things, but I don't know that they will. I have psychically asked him several times. I feel, since I had that dream of becoming friend, I feel their presence with me all the time. If they're physically near, I can feel that. And I'll tell you one more experience. I went out in the forest with some friends. This was middle of last November. And there was a place along the trail where somebody had broken some maple trees, like 3 inches in diameter, just snapped them right off. I mean, there's nothing I know that can do that. Certainly a human couldn't do that. So we decided, well, we looked up the hill. There was a hill going up in the woods, and up there was some meadow where they had done some logging some years ago. So I'm looking up, and there was another broken tree up the hill. So we walked up to that hill, the hill there, saw that tree, and we saw there was a bunch of others. There was a hemlock, 3-inch hemlock, you know, that big name, snapped right off. And this was one of the weird ones. There was one that had been snapped off. Somebody had driven it into the ground, picked it back up, and then balanced it on top of the stump. You know, again, I have no idea who did that other than I'm sure it's a Sasquatch. So while we're there, one of the guys with me had a brand new camera, brand new batteries. We're standing there, and I'm feeling very strong the presence that he's standing right there watching us. I mean, I could feel his presence, which wasn't scary. It was just very strong, you know. They have very powerful minds. So he looks down at his camera, and his batteries are all drained. I had my cell phone, and I looked at my cell phone. It was okay, but by the time we got back to the car, it was all good. Battery was drained. I've never seen it drained like that. So I thought that was just an experience that is very typical of interdimensional stuff where energy gets absorbed.
Do you think a Faraday cage, do you think that would protect that?
I don't know. I really don't know, because I don't know how the energy is getting out or how it. I felt that he was standing there watching us, and both of my friends thought they felt somebody there watching them. I felt that he was not in our dimension, and that the fact that he was just outside of our dimension was drawing energy from, or having some effect on the batteries. That's just my intuition. I don't know. I've since psychically tried to ask him, I say, why do you break trees like that? And this is the answer. He said, well, he says, the deer come along trails in the woods. And he says, we break the branches across the deer trail, because then when the deer come there, they have to hesitate and stop. And because this is something new, you know, the tree across their trail. And so while they're hesitating, then we can capture them.
I think that's interesting because, I mean, they need to eat. They're physical. It seems like they're physical, but they're also metaphysical. It's like they're so mysterious. And yeah, I believe personally it might have something to do with shamanism, because I've heard of, because I'm a Nupyak Eskimo, and I've heard a lot of stories about humans that were able to do similar things. So they might.
From the yogic stories from India, the same thing. They can do the same. Yogis can do the same thing. Yeah.
And if they're trying to teach you, and they can make themselves go into other realities, you might learn some really interesting stuff.
Yeah, I know, though, some of these experiences seem really strange, and I hope your viewers don't think it's too strange. But I'm telling you, this is the reality we're all moving towards, and we have to. I think for our society as humans on the planet to be in tune with life on the planet, we have to understand this.
Well, there's a science to shamanism and how all this stuff works, but because we think, like, the Western culture thinks they know everything, they completely like, that's not possible, so they don't even look into it. Like, for example, they did a study on astral projection, and they were doing an MRI scan while someone was astral projecting. They popped out of their body, and they were able to conclude that, yes, they were seeing, their brain was active as if they were seeing things for real, but they didn't bother to check whether or not the things they were seeing were actually really there or not. They just like, oh, it's a hallucination, we're done.
I know, they just don't want to think about it. If any evidence comes that destroys their vision of reality, they try to forget it.
It's just closed-minded. It's like a recurring theme, and it's like human nature or something. Like, if we don't know about it and it's something outside of our knowledge, then it's impossible. I know everything. I'm all-knowing, and that can't happen. Like, we're not all-knowing. We're just barely scratching the surface.
And I think that's why so many Native Americans have experiences like this, because they don't close their mind.
Yeah, and the Western culture coming to the Native people, not understanding what Native people are doing, and just being like, they're such savages, these idiots, and start murdering them.
Well, that's why I don't want to tell where this spot is, because I don't want crazy people coming and trying to hunt them. I mean, this is just, I got to protect them somehow.
Yeah, it's because the reason why people want to hunt them right now is because people think they're apes, and they think they're these huge gorillas that are violent and going to eat us or whatever.
I mean, I can understand a Sasquatch getting angry, because what they're doing is, if somebody goes out in the woods with a gun and is thinking violence, Sasquatch picks that up immediately. They know what you're thinking. They know what you're feeling. And they don't like violent thoughts like that.
They know that they won't be respected, and they'll probably be hunted and dissected, and so they avoid Western culture. And it makes a lot of sense. And they're highly intelligent, so they're like us. I mean, they're more advanced than us, is what it seems like. Because do we have interdimensional phase-shifting technology? No, we don't. No. And even if they're not using technology, if you think of shamanism as another form of science, and they understand it really well and they're able to manipulate it, then they're still more advanced than us, at least in that way.
Yeah, and I think we have to just think that they've simply taken a different path. They've decided not to accept technology, and they've decided to progress by developing their empathy, their emotional body. And
I was reading some ancient I think it was Aztecs or something. They talked about how there's 3 different types of people. The first people were the people of the spirit, and then the people of the clay, and then the people of the corn. The first people, the people of the spirit, the Creator allowed them to have their third eye open. And basically what it says is, it's like they had a civilization with technology based on shamanism science. Like, imagine that shamanism isn't hokey pokey magic, wishy-washy, this, that. Imagine that there's actually laws to it, and it actually makes scientific sense if you understand more. Technology and an entire civilization was able to develop off that, like we're developing off of logical, like physical laws. They developed technology and advancements in the shamanistic field, whatever you want to call it. And they had a global civilization that got destroyed because they overreached their power. And you just think, I think that, and I think we could have taken a different path. We could be a completely different civilization. There could be other civilizations out there that have they branched off in their technological or understanding advancements in a completely different way. And and this is probably what the Bigfoot are, and they're so alien to us, and we don't understand it so much that we think it's BS, and we roll our eyes and say it's not possible. But the reality is, we don't really know that much about that whole field. We don't know anything.
In the path of Tantra, reaching the spiritual goal, which is becoming one with Great Spirit, the path is actually a method of clearing and coming into total awareness of your emotions. It has very little to do with that much intellect. It's more, the spiritual path is one of emotional development. I think the Sasquatch have decided that that's true and that's what they follow. That's their spiritual path.
All right, and for everyone out there, including myself, do you have any tips on meditation, on how to achieve a state where things like this would want to approach you?
Meditation is, in Tantra, it's called the psychic approach, subjective approach through objective transformation. What that means is we tend to think of ourselves as separate beings. I am this is a flashlight, this is my table, you're another person separate. In truth, we're all part of that same consciousness, the Great Spirit, which has created everything. So the path of Tantra is to empty your mind of thoughts of separation and to bring into your mind thoughts of oneness. And by doing that, you try and empty your mind of disparate thoughts and bring only thoughts of unity. And of course, that's only one thought. Unity is one thought. And you try and do that in a setting where you can concentrate. It's very nice to do it. I try to do it when the weather's nice outside, especially at night. And that's what you do. That's however, whatever variation you want to use on that, pretty much all the spiritual meditations are like that, based on that. And to know that the Great Spirit is not just some source, not some reservoir. It's a conscious, loving consciousness that is with you every second of the day and knows you better than you know anything. So giving in your mind in a sense, the greatness and personality of the Great Spirit, and allowing for that the basis of everything in this universe is the love of the Great Spirit for creation. That's the path of Tantra, and that's what I'd recommend people do.
You know, if the Sasquatch share that view and they like you for it, then I highly doubt they'd lay a finger on you to harm you.
I don't think my fear has any logic in it. It's just an emotion that comes up that I got to deal with. So
I'd like to cover one more thing before we end this. I'd like you to just touch base a little bit on, for Native people, they don't like to share their knowledge because they feel they'll be ridiculed or people won't respect what they say, and so they don't want to bother. And you feel a similar way, and that's why you're hesitant to share your story. I'd like you to talk a little bit about that for the people out there who don't want to share their stories because they don't want to feel like they're crazy. You know what I mean? Yeah.
For one thing, I'm, in business, if business customers or knew I was saying these things, they might think I'm a little bit too weird to do business with. So, so there's that fear. I have told a lot of these stories to local people, none of whom believe me. I think they've essentially decided that I'm crazy, which I don't mind because I've been having these similar experiences all my life, and eventually I had to make the decision, look, either I'm sane and everybody else is just blocking out reality, or everybody else is right and I'm crazy. And I decided that I'm not crazy. So you it takes a little bit of bravery. If they want to come forward anonymously, that's fine, but please come forward with the story. I mean, tell what happened. True science is understanding reality through our experiences. And if they don't come forward with their experiences, we're never going to learn as a society. Gee, please come forward.
The more people who come forward, the more validating it is to these types of things, and the less it makes it seem crazy. Because if you think about it, just like 20 years ago, 30 years ago, Bigfoot was highly doubted, and now it's like mainstream, popular. Everyone thinks Bigfoot's real.
Right.
But then, like 30 years ago, you talk about it, and everyone's like, you're crazy. I really hope you meet with the Bigfoot. I really do, because that lady that I was talking to yesterday, or day before yesterday, she was telling me that I can go down there and she'll let me meet the Bigfoot. She said that they have the way that they have a hierarchy where the elder is the leader, the elder is the boss, and they have sentries, they have lookouts, so they have a big like militant style. They'll have sentries looking out, and in the middle will be the children and the women, and the sentries will be around guarding, and they'll know instantly if anyone tries to mess with them.
Right. And if my psychic experience was real, the leader of this group was a woman, older, and that the savages were all the young males.
They also have shamans, and you could learn from them too. Yeah, man, you got to meet these things. Like,
I know, I got to meet them. They're very
because you're having like only psychically communication right now, but you should have like face to face, like look at them, and they said they'll teach you once you overcome your fear.
He said he'd teach me once I overcome my fear.
Yeah, so I'm sure they're going to show you some really interesting stuff.
It'll be a big event when that happens.
Yeah, man, start prepping yourself. Google ways to overcome fears. Do whatever it takes.
If you ever in the East here, I'll take you out.
You ask them if it would be okay if you bring me with you, and then I'll go face them with you. I don't mind. I won't bring anything. I won't have a phone. I don't want them to drain my battery.
Right. Yeah, well, if you do, you can stay at my house. You're welcome. I have heard from one person who claimed that they had some psychic interaction, and the Sasquatch told them, "We don't like it when you think too much."
Damn, they're going to hate me then. Maybe it's like too much noise for them. Like, have you heard of like clairvoyant people or psychic people who need to live out in the woods because it's just like too much?
Yes, no, I have heard that, and
maybe that's what it is.
Could be. I mean, if you're psychically communicating or trying to tune into somebody, and all they're doing is thinking garbage thoughts all the time, how can there be communication? You know,
it might be really ugly or noisy and distracting to them and give them a headache, so they don't want to be around people who aren't like that.
I think so. Literally, I think that's true.
Yeah, that makes sense. So I need to learn to clear my mind and become one-minded and focus, and not
just in the morning, 20 minutes to spend. You might focus on your third eye or even higher, the Sahasrara chakra, and just image light coming in and trying to just dispel the thoughts and think of love and oneness, and try and focus on that. 20 minutes in the morning, 20 minutes at night.
It might not even be spiritual. It might not even be like love or anything. It might just be a quiet mind that they like.
I'm sure that is certainly a part of it. Yeah.
But it could be the love too. I'm just thinking out loud here. I can't speak for them.
I definitely intuit that they like the feeling of love and brotherhood.
So they would approach us, but we're just too noisy and not clear-headed enough for them. And they're like, "Oh, get away from me."
Not in control of our emotions enough.
Yeah, that's interesting, man. Yeah, I'm going to start practicing. Actually, definitely. I started a few days ago, and I managed to meditate for 3 minutes, and within the 3 minutes, I was focusing on my eye, just one thing, Yeah. And then all of a sudden, I was in like a spirit world. All of a sudden, I saw a beautiful place and a guy or a girl. I couldn't tell if it was a man or a woman. I just saw their arm and a golden robe hanging down, and I just...
You have such potential. You should be meditating more often. Gee, that's hard for most people to attain that kind of experience. And you're natural, so you ought to...
It only took like 3 minutes, but it only lasted like 1 second. I was like, holy crap, and then I snapped out of it.
Right. Yeah, my greatest meditation experience is I have no idea how I got there. It's nothing I did, so...
It's like kind of drift and just there.
Yeah.
It's kind of like astral projection. Sometimes you're just there, like you don't know where you are. Sounds like you're really spiritually in tune, and that seems to be a common trend I'm hearing with the people who are encountering Sasquatch. So for people out there who think, oh, this is a bunch of BS, I don't believe this. Do you meditate? Are you in that spiritual place? Like maybe you're not experiencing this type of thing because you're not there. Like you're not, and maybe they just don't like people who have too much of a scatterbrain.
Yeah, or bad intent. For instance, the two Bigfoot research organization people, he emailed me last April about an experience they had. They went out in a forest in southwest Maine in the middle of a rainstorm, actually. It was quite cold. It was about 38 degrees. And they went out at midnight into a forest that people had sighted Sasquatch. And he said they went out And then all of a sudden, it was pitch black, raining, cold, and all of a sudden, he said six Sasquatch surrounded them, all growling. And obviously not happy with them. And one of them guided them back to their car, sort of like, don't come back in the forest. And I'm thinking, why were the Sasquatch upset with him? And it's because, I think, of the demeaning intent. Because I know that these two researchers did not believe the psychic aspect, did not. And they went out as researchers, researching animals.
Like they're researching a dumb ape.
Right, exactly.
And these things are, like the lady who meets them, she said they seem like royalty. They're regal and they're powerful.
Yeah,
like
but
you have to respect them.
I don't think they're egotistical about it, but they certainly want respect.
Well, who doesn't?
Who doesn't? I know. Yeah. So I just thought I'd bring that up because they're not above letting you know that they're not happy with what you're thinking.
Oh, they like garlic too. That's what she told me.
Oh, do they?
Yeah. So to honor them and respect them when you do meet them, a gift would definitely be something smart. But yeah, man, I'd love to go down there and meet with them. Maybe we'll do that. That'd be cool.
Yeah. Yeah. If you come east, we'll do it, and we'll go see the.
No cameras. No cameras.
Recording.
Totally respect them. They know what we're doing. Be like, hey, I'm not trying to screw you over. I'm not trying to make money off you. I just want to learn what you are. And then if they give permission, maybe. But
I'm sure they will. Every time I go in the forest now, I ask their permission.
No, I mean permission to film them and show people.
Oh, that. Yeah, they would have to give that to you directly, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't want to even try unless they're like...
Wouldn't even try.
Because they'd know, and it's not honorable. It's not respectful to be deceitful and sneaky like that. And I don't want to exploit them.
And it may be different. I mean, the Sasquatch here may not want us to film them, whereas the ones in Ontario say it's okay. I mean, they may have some differences. I don't know, but...
This is some good info. Hopefully people find this useful. And remember, for people out there, you can keep yourself anonymous and share your crazy stories that you don't think anyone would believe, because we're right now, like this interview, this is trailblazing. Like new information that's not commonly accepted, but eventually it will be. And the first people who do it are the ones that are going to be responsible for the paradigm shift and thinking. And this is that kind of thing.
Thank you for being brave enough to talk about it.
Oh yeah, man, I'm not scared of anything. That's why I'm willing to see Bigfoot. Anyway, man, it was a nice interview. Keep me updated, and I'll keep you updated when I go down there.
Yeah, let me know.
Many of these things are very hard for people to accept and understand, because simply it falls outside of our knowledge. We don't know anything about psychic communication or the spiritual or interdimensional. It all seems fictional. But one day we may know what those things are, and we may start to understand them. And the sooner we stop denying things' existence because we don't understand it, the faster we'll come to actually being able to discover what's going on. If you like this video, please like and subscribe. It helps grow the channel. And if you have any stories that you'd like to share with me, you can email me at xenohuntersinfo@gmail.com.